Instant reaction after Iowa pulls off the victory against UConn 71-69. The Hawkeyes will play for a national title on Sunday. We break down the victory against the Huskies today. Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked on Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. If you're listening on the podcast side, 5-star reviews, and helps us out immensely. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Hawkeye fans, you're looking for tickets for that national championship game on Sunday. 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock out east, as the Hawkeyes will face off against South Carolina. A rematch of last year's epic Final Four matchup where Iowa handed South Carolina their only loss of the season, moved on to the championship game, and the path, as we anticipated, has been incredibly difficult and arduous for this Iowa team. And yet, here they are once again, playing for a national title. This is a team that I had my doubts about. This is a team where I wasn't exactly sure. This was a game where I wasn't sure where Iowa was going to be. And winning it in the fashion that they did, 71-69, a first half where they struggled mightily, a first half where weren't able to throw it in the ocean. Caitlin Clark 0-6 from downtown, some careless turnovers, 12 overall in the first half. It was just sloppy basketball. And though they started to get revved up in the second quarter again, it was a big third quarter that really proved to be the difference in this basketball game as I was able to pull out the victory. As we go through and take a look at it and look at this, though, overall, 71-69, a tough, physical, grinded out type of team against a team that is incredibly talented, immensely talented. And though they are banged up and injured and only played 6 players in the game, it's not that we're talking about a bunch of walk-ons that are out there, right? I mean, these are still girls that were highly coveted by everybody in the country. We're not talking about some great teamers from back in the day, right? These are elite level players. And Paige Beckers is a stud. KK Arnold, wish she would have stayed in the Midwest and made her way down from Wisconsin down to Iowa City. Edwards inside. I mean, what we saw from Ewell and her defense, this is an elite level team. But to win in that fashion, to win in that style of game, this is something throughout most of the tenure of Lisa Bluter that wasn't going to happen. Even the last couple of years, these types of games were not games that Iowa could win. And now they can. And now they have. And they've done it multiple times. And they've done it against good opponents. And that gets you excited. Because this was not Iowa's A game. I don't even know if it was Iowa's B game. But there's an old adage out there. Win your clunkers. And Iowa won their clunker in this one. We'll talk about the late game situation. We will get into that. But as we run through here, instant reaction style, a couple of other notes. Mentioned the first half. And there was a portion of it where you got to give credit to the defense. I mentioned Mule and what she was doing defensively, face guarding. And we've seen plenty of people try to do that, have success for a while. The one thing about Caitlin Clark is she normally figures it out. She understands what the defense is doing, either the physicality or the athleticism, what they're doing, junk defenses, all the different things that she's seen over the course of not just her 4-year career in Iowa City, but throughout Caitlin Clark's career. She's dribbled a basketball. I mean, we know the stories of her, playing on the AAU team with a bunch of boys and winning a championship there. She knows this. She's seen everything, and she is so smart and such a heady player that she will usually figure out pretty early in the game, this is what they're doing. This is how I'm going to combat that. It was more difficult here. And the credit is the UConn game plan, what they did, coupled with having the actual ability to have the players that can do that and play that kind of defense. And we saw that throughout the course of the game. But she figured it out, got rolling a little bit in the third quarter. And though not a great game from what we're used to from Caitlin Clark statistically, 21 points, a season low, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Iowa found a way to do it. And they found a way to do it by getting stops defensively, making plays when they were there, and a whole lot of Hannah Stuelke. Now, coming into this game, we talked about some of the individual matchups. And we mentioned, of course, Paige Beckers and what she does as a facilitator and the playmaker for UConn against Caitlin Clark. Gabbie Marshall, how about the defense from Gabbie throughout in this one, including one that'll go down for a long time. And we will talk about the moving screen at the end of the ball game. Don't worry, we will get there. But my biggest concern coming into the game when we were talking about all these individual matchups and all the players that they were going to throw at Caitlin Clark and what they were going to do, I had my concerns inside with Edwards going up against Hannah Stuelke. And there's not a doubt in my mind. Edwards is likely going to be an early pick in the WNBA draft. The Hannah Stuelke not just outplayed her, at times she dominated her. We know Hannah Stuelke when everything is going right. Incredibly athletic. Look, this was probably one of the few players on this Iowa roster that would have been recruited by Gino Auriemma. There's not a whole lot. Like, he gets the pick of the litter, right? We talked about it earlier in the week, and could he play Paige Beckers together with Caitlin Clark? I think he could figure that out, but that aside, there aren't a whole lot of players on this Iowa roster that would have been recruited by UConn. But Hannah Stuelke is one of them. She was a top 40 player nationally. I think ESPN had her 47th in the country in their top 100 girls rankings. She's an immense talent. She's physical, but she has the speed, the versatility to play. And you saw that in that matchup against Edwards. And when she gets a step on players, what she can do, she was outstanding. And without her play, Iowa doesn't come back and win this game. Down double digits, down by a dozen against UConn. You're down 28-16. You don't want to say hope is lost, but boy, from Caitlin Clark and not just having the legs in the first half, short on a bunch of shots, and she wasn't alone. A lot of the players were just short on their shots. They were right on line. Gabbie had two of them in the first half. There was one from Feuerbach before she hit one a little bit later in that first half. We saw this a bunch where the shots were right on. They were just short. Is it legs? Is it fatigue? Is it the big spotlight? I don't exactly know what it was, but then they settled in. And again, they did it with the defense, which is just incredible from this team that they were able to do that. And they did it again in the third quarter. But as you're going through the course there, they make that run at the end of the half. Could have been a little bit better. Could have got a 2-for-1 there. Instead, you didn't. Hold for a shot. Don't get a good one there and give it back. And UConn gets a shot at the buzzer. But still, with all that being said, Iowa goes into the locker room and they're down 32-26. As poorly as Iowa played, I think we all felt good. And then the third quarter happened, and that's when the shooting started to warm up. Iowa scores 25 points in that quarter and then eventually gets there. But yes, it is time now to get to what many people consider the play of the game. The moving screen call against UConn. Did they get it right? Did they get it wrong? We'll talk about it as we continue. It's an instant reaction podcast, Locked On Hawkeyes. We're back with more here in a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, not just for baseball. You're looking for some Sunday tickets to the Women's Final Four, they have you covered there. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets for MLB, college hoops, and a whole lot more. All-in pricing. I love this part of it. You know, the fees that you're going to find when you're on a ticket app, and they can be overwhelming at times. Instead, you toggle this feature, shows the whole total up front. No surprise fees at checkout. All of a sudden, you're tacking on big money at the end. Not the case with Game Time. Plus, you get a panoramic view. Frame your seat in the app before you buy with their seat views, all at Game Time and the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. I've used Game Time, bought playoff tickets for the Twins a year ago. I know a lot of people have used it also for the Final Four. And if you're making the drive to Cleveland on Sunday, I would tell you, Game Time, the spot to take a look at those tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That'll get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Trent Condon back with you again on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. As I've told you throughout the course of the last couple of days, been a little bit of sickness, a little illness here. So had an extra drink there and powers through here this instant reaction podcast. Let's talk about the play that will be remembered for a very long time for a lot of people in a lot of circles. And it's the moving screen. It is this difficult conversation. What a foul is, what a whistle is in the final moments of the game. You want the players to decide the game. You don't want it in the hands of the referees. And I get that. As I've told many people before, everyday listeners, you know this. I'm not someone that likes to make excuses about referees. I think it's a loser way out, and it's something that I try to stay away from. But there are going to be those plays. There's going to be those moments that are going to dictate one way or the other the way that it goes. And this was one of them. UConn would have had an opportunity to get a shot off to potentially win the basketball game. But it was a moving screen. And at the first view, in that real tight angle from behind the play, on that tight camera angle, it looked pretty ticky-tacky. In fact, I said myself, and to one of my buddies I was watching the game with, it was me, my buddy Brendan, his wife Katie, and my wife. And we're watching the game together tonight as the kids were playing downstairs. And so, I think we got one there. But the more you see the play, you go back and watch it from the actual camera angle, the TV camera angle, there's no doubt. You slow the thing down. I mean, it was just an absolute beheading. And the rules are very clear on a moving screen. And I don't believe I saw any kind of caveat that said only for the first 39 minutes and 50 seconds of a game. I don't believe I saw that. I could be wrong, but I certainly never saw it in any of the notes. But basically, what it says is two elements of that screen that weren't there. Two elements of the play that absolutely positively tell you it was exactly that. It was a moving screen. And as you go through and you look at the simple nature of this one and the way that this plays out, I think it's easy to understand. The referees got it right. Initially, I thought it was weak. Initially, I thought Iowa got with one. And I knew the conspiracy theories and the guys with the tinfoil hat were going to come run it out, right? We were going to see them again, and it was going to be maybe ugly. Instead, here we are. Here we are today, and they got it right. If you want them to not decide the game, you don't want the referees to make the decision. You want it in the hands of the players. The players got to play straight up too. And that screen impacted the play so much. Now, another thing to consider, and another thing that I think we need to realize and listen to and look at is just this. Hannah Stuelke was playing great defense there. So she was involved there on the switch. And as Beckers was starting to turn the corner, was going to get the ball back, it looked like on the right wing, she was right there with him defensively. And because of that, there's no guarantee that Paige Beckers is going to hit the shot. There's no guarantee that UConn's going to score a bucket. It just isn't there. We all, I think, would have loved to see the way that it would have played out. And as it played out and the way that it went, how this eventually would have gone. I think we all understand that. But it was a moving screen. Both things could be right. Both things can be in the same conversation. It was a moving screen, no doubt. Is it called often? No. But it also impacted the game and impacted that play so immensely that the ref had to blow their whistle. Because if that moving screen would have led to UConn getting an easy layup and the win there, Hawkeye fans would be screaming too. Absolutely. Now, before that, the late game situation, as the ball was out near half court. So Hannah Stuelke's dribbling it around, trying to hand it to Kate Martin. It was deflected. She thought it was going to be an over and back, so instead, she flips it, turnover. UConn gets the three there. The thing is, Kate Martin could have just used her body to shield the basketball, grabbed it, and it wouldn't have been over and back, a backcourt violation, because the ball was tipped. Another late game, 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Caitlin Clark could have kept it herself. I thought that's what she was going to do, and that set up, obviously, the play that we're talking about at the end. I'm watching it again, and of course, you can go on social media and see this 1,000 different times. She moved outside. She leaned to her left. She lowered her shoulder, and she dropped her hip. You can't do that. The tight angle from behind, you don't see the whole part of it. You only see her upper body. All you see is Edwards' upper body on that play. And then late in the game, Iowa up 2. Caitlin Clark misses the second free throw, and there's Sydney Affolter. We talked about her being the difference, being the glue, being the X factor, if you will. A big three-pointer, an offensive rebound that proved to be the difference in Iowa. Love them or hate them, they're on to the national championship game. And I will tell you what, Hawkeye fans, it's easy to love this team. Hannah Stuelke, Caitlin Clark, Gabbie Marshall, Kate Martin, the whole crew. They're going to be long remembered. This is going to be a group that I talk about me growing up. You look over my shoulder here. I got the picture of B.J. Armstrong and Roy Marble and Ed Horton. Those were my guys growing up. And now it's my daughter's girls out there and watching this team and the excitement that you see coming out. And we can enjoy it too. And we definitely are. And now we know it'll come to a close on Sunday, as Caitlin Clark will put on an Iowa Hawkeye uniform for the final time. It'll be against South Carolina. We'll talk about that matchup as we continue here on Locked On Hawkeyes Instant Reaction Podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes Instant Reaction Podcast. Thanks for being with us here today. All right, so we're battling. Throat's getting a little sore. And here's South Carolina. No excuses, right? Play like a champion. And that's what I was going to try to do on Sunday. South Carolina a year ago came in undefeated, felt like they were unbeatable. Was it just Aaliyah Boston and Beal and the whole crew there? The depth that they had, it was a mountaintop that seemed impossible. And now here's this retooled South Carolina team with Cordoza, who left the game with an injury, came back and was really good. She's 6'7", by the way. Iowa's starting center is listed at 6'2", and Hannah Stuelke. All right. But this is a team that's a lot better on the outside. A team that is much better on the perimeter, shooting the basketball. The game plan that Iowa used and employed a year ago, as Coach Fitz put that one together, she came to Lisa Bluter and said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sag off the shooters. We're going to try everything we can do inside against Boston Company and make it work. That worked a year ago. It's not going to work this year. So this is going to be a complete retooling and figuring out what they're going to do. They're fast. They're aggressive. They slash. They can get to the rim, and they can shoot the ball from the outside. It's going to be tough. We will preview the matchup a little bit more tomorrow on Saturday. We will get that to you hopefully in the late afternoon, early evening, and get you set up for the title game. But we do know it is another big, big mountain that Iowa's got to climb. And as we said before the LSU game, as we said against the matchup against UConn, there's things that concern you. There's things that make you nervous. There's parts of each individual team that you can look at and say, I was in trouble. But the equalizer continues to be 22. And 22 wasn't at her best tonight, at least shooting the basketball. How often does that happen 2 games in a row? Rare. I know Dawn Staley is going to have the motivational edge here. Dawn Staley is going to use last year's loss as motivation. Dawn Staley maybe is going to use some other things as motivation. But Iowa's got the shot now. Iowa has an opportunity. And there are plenty in WNBA circles, college basketball circles that believe that Caitlin Clark cannot be considered the greatest player without a championship. She's 40 minutes away. 40 minutes away from taking that bit of ammunition away from them. I would argue taking an Iowa program that never played for a national championship to back-to-back national championship games in its own right is pretty incredible. You look at her roster, what Iowa has compared to the other rosters that we're talking about at this elite level, it's not even close. And Iowa's playing for a title again. Let's hope it goes better than it did a year ago. South Carolina is big and aggressive and tough, and it's going to be difficult. But Iowa has 22. Will it be enough? We'll find out on Sunday afternoon. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day, with you each and every day throughout the course of the week. And here over the weekend, a little instant reaction, and we got you covered. Also coming up this weekend, we got a whole lot more. We will break things down as we will do a crossover edition again with South Carolina. We'll talk to Mr. Lyon over there and break things down with the Gamecocks and the Hawkeyes getting together for the second time in a year. We'll do that, and then an instant reaction podcast after the national championship game. It's a busy weekend. Happy to be with you each and every day. And as always, thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. It helps us immensely. If you're listening on the podcast side, hit us up with the 5-star review and a big thank you and a tip of the ball cap to you. We will talk to you again tomorrow. Get ready for Iowa, South Carolina. The Hawkeyes are playing for the national championship once again. We'll talk to you then. Go Hawks.